Hello and welcome to the Popping Crease and to my new segment, That's Stumps. On this episode, I am joined by the legendary Aslam Khota and we are discussing the World Test Championship Final. Aslam, thank you so much for joining me today, sir. How are you?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm very well. Congratulations on your first ever podcast. I wish you many, many millions of hours of good engagements with people from around the world. The first thing I'd like to say is that being on Popping Crease, I'll make sure that I don't overstep the mark.
Thank you so much for those kind words, sir. Right, let's jump right in, shall we? The Proteas are heading into the final with a lot of them immersed in the past 2 months in IPL cricket. And a lot of them haven't played red ball cricket for the past 6 months. Some have been playing in county championship, but they only have 1 4-day game in preparation for the final. Is that enough?
Is that enough? Is that the question?
That's the question.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Without a doubt. I mean, if you ask any of the players, you ask Shukri Conrad, any cricketing aficionado will tell you that you needed to be really battle-hardened. And I think the Aussies are, because they got through a really tough tour against India, although they won it quite handsomely. And it was a 5-match series. So, you know, they're in it, they know their values, they know I'm not too sure about combinations, but they know their strengths. So as far as South Africa are concerned, I mean, a 4-day warm-up against Zimbabwe in England at Arundel Castle will perhaps just be a good outing for them. I don't know how seriously they're going to play it, where they're going to have all of the 14 or 15 guys running in and bowling. I mean, all of the bowlers running in and bowling, and then most of the batters getting a look in there as they would typically do in a friendly these days. So that's left to be seen. I will say that that's not enough. So what really needs to be in place is to just get them mentally psyched up. And I think the fact that they're in the final, they're probably halfway there. But a lot is now going to depend on the management. And, you know, we can talk about experiences and everything else and playing at Lords, all of those things to come. You know, we can discuss that. But I really don't think our guys are ready. And that perhaps this is an indication of how the whole test setup is, where there just aren't enough fixtures. So to me, that is the big issue. And had we been able to play some through because of the SA20, that's not going to happen any longer in January and February. And even if there was some sort of competition a little after that, would have at least been good for a guy like Shukri, because he's just about molded a good squad together. He's very adamant on keeping a certain number together and buy into his philosophies. And I think he's got the buy-in. And because he's got the buy-in, he's got the results. And I think that will be the most telling factor when they do get to Lords on the morning of the 11th.
I 100% agree with you. I don't think it's enough time. And Conrad has a tough few questions to answer in terms of team selection. So we met a few of them is, does he pick Ngidi or Patterson, sorry. Which all-rounder does he go for? Is it Mulder or Bosch? Does Dazorzi get to play? Does he make the final 11? So what are your thoughts on team selection?
Look, I think the lineup is more or less at the back of his head. There'll be 1 or 2 positions that he'll be tossing up. And he's also already mentioned the fact that he's got Aidan Markram and Ryan Rickleton opening for him. So I think he's automatically ruled Dazorzi out of the 11. That's the way I see it. Dazorzi hasn't been at his best. He hasn't been at his most fluent. And I think when you watch a batsman, it doesn't matter whether he's got then a 45 or even a 60, but if there's no fluency, if you're not really expanding your repertoire, and you're really hanging in there to survive, to have a big score, it's a bit of an indicator for me. So just looking at the squad, I mean, Bedingham has just come out of injury. So I think he got 11 yesterday in his first match since his comeback. He's got one more innings, and I think then they'll get down to that warm-up against Zimbabwe. I'm not sure if he's got 2 county matches. I'd rather he play those county matches and not practice, or just focus on the practice match. So I do think that there's a bit of a concern there. If there is still a concern, then I believe that Tony de Zorzi may just get the look in there. Tristan Stubbs, just given his mental, positive mental approach to the way he's played the IPL, I know I would have been one of those first ones to say that the adjustment is a big thing, and that it can't be easy for any batters to do that. But I do think that today they measure up to it. They're up to the fact that they can do it. And Tristan Stubbs has shown it when he was pigeonholed as a one-day cricketer or a white ball cricketer. That same season, he went on to get his career best in a 4-day match. So it shows that there's a lot more to the youngster than perhaps meets the eye. So in general, before I go through the whole squad, I do think that Lungi, Ngidi, and Mulder may be a choice. I'll tell you why, because I prefer to have 2 all-rounders who are both seamers, and you're going to leave Maharaj in there. That's just my thought. As far as Patterson is concerned, he had a very good season for South Africa. He had a very good county season, and some of the domestic stuff that he's played, he's continued to convince that he's the deal right now in his old age as well. Or let's just say in his latter years of his career. I don't know how much longer he's got. But he's not been in form with the ball at the moment in county cricket. And he actually plays for Middlesex at Lords. So for me, there's a question mark there. So I would perhaps rule him out completely and bring Mulder into contention with Ngidi, given that fact that we want to go for a really solid batting lineup. And the middle order looks after itself with Jansen, or Verena, Jansen, Maharaj, and then Rabada, of course, there as part of your fast bowlers. So your bowlers will read Bosch, and then Mulder, Rabada, and then Maharaj and Jansen was the other. So 3 all-rounders. South Africa used to have that luxury in the early throughout the 90s with Pollock and Jacques Kallis as well as Kloosner in the setup. And from time to time, we could add Hansi Cronje into that category as well. And so I do think that basically, I feel, gives me the best balance in the team. You've got a very competent bowling lineup, and you have a batting lineup that you can depend on because they go right down to number 8, 9.
Yeah, I agree. I think the key players for South Africa are going to be Bavuma and Bedingham. Yes, they both haven't had a lot of red ball games recently, but Bavuma has shown, I hope I'm not jinxing him here, but he has shown in the past he's had long breaks, come back and gone right back to scoring runs. He has a good work ethic, a good technique, which you can always fall back on. And Bedingham seems, as we've seen in the past, thrives under pressure. So I'm hoping he can use that in the final of the Waters Championship and hopefully score some runs for South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as far as Bavuma is concerned, I agree with you that somehow he has this knack of convincing us only when he gets into the middle and ends the innings that, okay, he's fine, he's okay with it, The fact that he hasn't played long or he hasn't played for a long time, he seems to have that ability to really concentrate and knuckle down. I do believe, though, that, and he'll agree, that had he been playing a lot more cricket, even if it was the 50-over stuff in domestic South African cricket, which he didn't play because of the elbow injury, more time out there would have been good for him because that helps in compiling the big scores. So where he's been getting those very good 80s and 90s, he's obviously got 2 centuries in this past test season, which is fantastic for him. Had he played more cricket, I think he would have been more equipped mentally, physically, and otherwise to post those big scores. Bedingham had a fantastic start. He's an out-and-out Stoke player. He's absolutely glorious to watch when he's really on form. But I have my doubts in him maybe just finding that form that he did early on. what can happen is some guys rise to the occasion, especially in a game of this stature and magnitude. The whole fact that you're playing at Lord's in a cup final against Australia, some guys just put it together.
Yeah.
And I think he proved that in the early part of his career when in around quite a bit of mayhem in New Zealand, he went on to get a classical 100. So, which meant that I'll get the guys to play around me. I am here to stay. This is my position. And so that's the other side to David Bedingham, which is also impressive. I always say this, Fatima, is that if you play to your potential and a little bit more, say you can produce 60 to 70% of efficient cricket in whatever your task is, and if everyone chips in like that, you don't have to play great cricket. You don't have to have somebody taking 5 wickets and others scoring double centuries. You can still get out there and win the match. And I think that's not so much a philosophy, but that's how Shukri Conrad looks at it. That if every one of these guys just put in their bit, because he's backed them, he's literally pushed them to say, "Go on, this is for you guys." I mean, what he's done to even a person like De Zorzi, bringing him from nowhere when he was literally no longer considered, and to bring him back in there. I mean, some really brave calls he has made. And that's the way he runs. And I know him for a very long time, since the late 1990s when he really got into coaching, and then he was up here in Joburg with the Lions as well. So that is his way of getting about doing things. And what you won't see on the outside is that he's a very hard nut. He demands a lot. And maybe he's matured a lot more since he has, coached for such a long time. He's grown up. He's seen the ranks come through during his time at the High Performance Center. So you may see a bit of a more pragmatic approach. But in the end, I think what really fires him is the fact that he demands that much more. And at times that makes guys good coaches, and other times it can be a failing as well. But the way I see it right now, it's working for him.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, winning 7 games on the bounce. It's a remarkable achievement. And you're absolutely correct. It's doing the little things, everyone doing their part. It's a team performance. It doesn't have to be just Rabada or just Gazuma. It's the team all contribute. There is no reason why they cannot win.
Correct. You support each other. You play for each other. I always, even when I'm coaching, if I'm in a match standing umpire, and if I see a catch dropped in the field and the bowler walking back to his mark and really upset, I'll just whisper in his ear, "This wicket that you are going to take it is for the fellow that's just dropped the catch. And when you take the wicket, go straight to him and say, everything's okay." That's when you create a team environment, that's the little things that you do, that you play for each other. The next ball I'm running in is to pick up this wicket because of the little bit of a mishap that we've had. But nevertheless, I mean, I'm really excited. I was asked just a day or two ago what I think our chances are. And I do think that we're up against a very, very formidable Australian team. They have 1 or 2 problems, which we'll get into when you want to raise that. But as far as South Africa are concerned, there is an air of confidence in the way they've been out there. They've had situations where they've had to recover in sessions where they seem to have lost it. And I'm talking of even at the time that they had in Bangladesh. They just seem to keep coming back. They were almost toe to toe with the opposition. And that was a good thing to see. That never give up, that typical South African style, that in-your-face style, that fierce, as they say, keep going at the opposition, let them know that you're here. And I think that was perhaps lacking a little bit with some of the coaches, before Shukri, that we seem to lose that spark. That one of the things that made South Africa a formidable outfit since the early 1990s was, yes, you had the material, you had the bomb, the bombers, the bowlers who would come at you all the time. But I saw a bit of a soft approach after the end of Graham Smith. And I think if that comes back into our psyche, it certainly does rattle the opposition somewhat.
Absolutely. I'm very excited as well. Nervously excited. But seeing as you raised the Aussie 11, their openers, there's a bit of a question mark on who's going to open. I mean, ever since David Warner, they've had, what, 4, 5 different openers? It's going to be a tough ask for whoever it is, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that is one of the areas which I'm saying is a bit of a quandary for them. And why it's uncomfortable is the players don't know how George Bailey and company and maybe the captain are going to look, and one or two of the seniors in the squad like Stark and perhaps say Nathan Lyon, Usman Khwaja, how they'll maybe get into a discussion and say, right, let's go for this particular fellow. What they have done is Sam Constance, who they raved about because of a wonderful season he had in Australia. And when the Indians pitched up, it was a completely different game for the young man. But I see they brought him back. And then reading between the lines, this traveling squad after the single test that they play here are going to go across to the West Indies. So they're just going to ship the same 15 across. So Sam may get a look in there. But having said that, I made a few notes here. And I think that what they're going to do is Travis Head is going to open the innings. And they're going to come at the South Africans, all guns blazing. I can't see them actually. Yeah, I can't see them because if you look at the rest of them, you're almost playing a guessing game with the openers. Whereas you know that Travis has it batted in the middle. He's batted at 1 down and number 5, where he in fact got that 100 on debut in the World Test Championship. 163, I think it was. Massive score, 163, yeah. And the other run scorer in that final in 2023 was Smith. So I don't see that. And Smith was tried, remember, and eventually they've decided that he'd be okay at 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. And Cameron Green, I think, comes back into the picture in a very big way. So he will have to slot into that upper middle order. And given the fact that after his injury, he's had very good form in England, playing for Gloucester with a bat, I think he's going to get the nod ahead of your Constance, and that's going to force the Travis Head position there. So I know there has been a question mark from time to time because he has a full go from the beginning, and you want some sort of reliability with his fast scoring and so on. But I think that this is the only way they're going to then get Marnus into the lineup. Alex Carey, who in my opinion right now is the best wicketkeeper batsman in the world, just shows you that they're very, very strong. So the opening, if they want to fix that problem without putting too much of an issue and pressure on, say, the likes of Sam Constance or who's the other batsman? I was just trying to Josh Inglis. Although he's traveling as a reserve wicketkeeper, he does come into contention because he got 100 against Sri Lanka in his debut test. So they also spoiled for choice because they have that many. But there's always this issue at the top of the order. And I think maybe they're just making too much out of it. They should just go with Usman and Travis. The rest will look after itself. Yeah.
That will be very exciting to see Travis Head coming up against Gilbert in the morning of that June 11th. So I'm very excited. Let me ask you now, if destiny is in South Africa's hands and they come up victorious, what would it mean in South Africa for them to come home as champions? Would it increase the interest of cricket amongst the locals in getting them to the grounds?
Fatima, I've said on a number of occasions, the World Cup last year in the West Indies, the World Cup in India, the 50 over and the T20. I kept saying on those shows as well that it'll mean so much to the game in South Africa. At that stage, I've been pretty critical about how things have been run at CSA and saying that maybe it will allow us to put everything right in from the boardroom to the cricket field. But so it is very important to win because I've gone through this example before. In 1975, when the West Indies won the inaugural, it was a 60 over World Cup then, and in 79 they won 2 in a row. prior to that, they were getting an absolute beating from the Australians. And Clive Lloyd then got this battery of fast bowlers together, and we saw what a victory in 2 cup finals did to them. So much so that their complacency lost them the one in 83. But the 83 win by India, who were almost reluctant competitors there. What is this 60 over stuff all about? I mean, in 1975, I don't know if you know this, but in India, they didn't even have a limited overs competition. And it was about 4 or 5 months before the World Cup actually happened, and all the countries were told that England are going to be staging this, and they need to get ready. So they were reluctant participants, but put their heads together, and we all know historically what happened in 1983. They went on to win that World Cup. I think that was the most seminal moment in the history of Indian cricket. Whilst they won great series in test matches in the West Indies, against those fast bowlers, with their backs against the wall, almost out of favor in even competing there. Whatever they did at test level was good for them. But in 83 to win in those days, remember, they were still playing with a red ball and still playing in whites. That just took the game to another stratosphere, or through the stratosphere for India. They've never looked back. So you go to 83, 87, you take Alan Border, takes a team of players at the World Cup, and a reluctant captain, because he's thrust into the job. Because months before that, or a year before that, he spoke to all of the guys who were part of the Australian, let's just say, squad of 20, that please support us and let's make sure that we turn things around for Australian cricket. And he got the thumbs up from all of his mates, only to find out that almost 12 of them that then come to South Africa as rebels. So can you imagine what the state of the game was in Australia at this stage? What his state of mind may have been. Goes to India and they actually win the cup. Do I need to say more about what happened to Australian cricket from there on? So if you see the pattern, Pakistan 1992, 1996 in Sri Lanka, and we saw what happened when England eventually won, what it did to their cricket, and they won the T20 World Cup, and then of course the famous one in 2019. So you get the drift now. What I'm talking about, it's lifted the games in all of those countries. The West Indies, amazingly, the under-19s, their women, and even the men. Apart from those 2 wins that they had in the 70s, they then went on to win Champions trophies as well. And that's just kept them there and thereabouts. You expected more out of the West Indies. But there was a time when, if you look at post the late 80s, early 90s, some of the quality that came through, including Lara and Chanderpaul and the hoopers of the world. So there were great cricketers that came through. So even a win for the West Indies, let's just say in the last 2 competitions, had they qualified, would have been good for them. I'm convinced that if South Africa win the Test Championship, it will do the 5-day game a great favor. It will be a great flip for the game in the country. I believe our hierarchy will begin to look at Test cricket with in a different light, in a more positive light. I know it's expensive to host these Test matches and all of that, but I think it will also bring back sponsors. I'm so happy to see, whilst I don't agree with cigarettes and liquor companies being involved in sport, we all know the reasons why. But the fact that they've got the thumbs up from a very loyal cricket supporter in all of South Africa's early days since unification are back in there. And that to me is an indication that there is support there out for cricket. And the fact that in the last year, the way the teams have performed, that slowly, I think it's convincing the business world that we can get back into South African cricket. Having said all that, I must just mention as a footnote to this little issue, is that the cricket from a fiduciary point of view is being run a lot better now from a Cricket South Africa point of view. And I think that is very important for the game. The fact that they've put all of those bad experiences behind them, they've put in now some strict procedures and protocols in place. So which means not only the game in the Cricket South Africa offices, but in the rest of the country. We've seen two of the provinces just being wrapped on the knuckles quite badly because they don't want to take this kind of nonsense anymore when it comes to fraud and things like that. So from that point of view, they're getting things right. I still think that there needs to be a lot more cricketing minds that get involved. And if they are not part of the, if they're not part of the office staff and the management of Cricket South Africa, from time to time, they should pull people in from within the cricketing ranks in the country. Some of those that have retired or have been pushed into retirement to say, can we consult with you on this particular issue so we make the right decisions? So it's a broad statement, but I do believe that is, if they want to succeed and want to see the team succeed at all levels and in all of the formats, Fatima, they need to make sure that they got their cricketing hats on, their cricket thinking caps on, and make the right decisions from here on. But for those overall reasons, a Test Championship, any ICC trophy right now would be great for the game in the country.
Absolutely. And it's just really disappointing that if they were to win and they come home champions, they have no home tours, no home series to take advantage of to get that momentum going. It's just, they just got like 3 away tours back to back. So they can't take advantage of any of that marketing of having the champions, come watch your champions at home. It's just so disappointing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I also feel, as you mentioned this, and it's quite galling to see that nothing's been done prior to this Test Championship. There are 2 away tours for the South Africans where they'll be engaged in the Test series. They obviously got India a little later and Bangladesh. Is it Bangladesh or Sri Lanka? I'm not too sure. Pakistan it is, yes. So with those 2 giants, they do have away tours there. And then the West Indies are invited here in the early part of next year, as soon as the SA20 is finished. The SA20 starts early, it ends early. So there's an extra window there, but I'm not sure why they've given the West Indies the opportunity to play 5 T20 internationals. I reckon that's an insult. I'm not going to say it too loud to those West Indians who will tune in and watch, but I do think that they could have at least squeezed in, if not anything else, a few one-day internationals, because it would have given Shukri and the rest of the players a chance to continue to just be used to their home environment, because a year and a half down the line, we host the World Cup here. So where are the priorities? Now, this is what I'm saying about Cricket South Africa and their cricket, their thinking from a cricketing front, that seems to be lacking somewhere. Maybe they've got an answer for us, but it won't convince me very much, to be quite honest. If we're going into a T20, if we're going into a 50 over World Cup, you need to give that importance. I know there's a T20 World Cup again because it comes every 2 years, but I still feel that would have been necessary. And I promise you, if you asked Shukri, he would have probably even said, give me 3 T20 internationals and 2 please, so that it could be part of his preparation.
Absolutely.
Those formats, sorry, Fatima, in those formats, there are still guys knocking the door. There are still maybe gaps that need to be found, that need to be filled,
I completely agree with you. And I think, honestly, that with all the T20 leagues that happen, coaches can look at those leagues and see how their guys are playing. And they're getting enough T20 game time anyway. They don't need to play the bilateral game so much. So yes, take time and prep for the ODI World Cup, which honestly takes more time because it's longer games. They need more time, more full practice.
In fact, you've just mentioned a point that I thought about, but forgot to mention it, that's the other thing. There's so much of T20 cricket. It's not as if you need to know any more out of these guys what's going to happen. And if the one other reason it may be is that T20 cricket brings in the money to all of the stadiums and to Cricket South Africa. So maybe instead of having a tour with the West Indies where they're going to be maybe breaking even or even hosting it at a loss, that maybe 5 T20s will make them break even or make some money out of it. But I still feel that you need to give the game importance and the players importance, because at the end of the day, nobody will tell you that South Africa didn't make money. They'll say that we lost. That's what everybody talks about, that we were poor, that we were unprepared. The financials come out once a year. We'll worry about it when you produce the finances, and we'll lament it with you when you make those losses. And of course, we'll celebrate if you do make a profit. But the bottom line is you are custodians of the game, and that's what you need to focus on. And hopefully that will happen in the ensuing months as well.
Yes, we can only hope. So one final question, Aslam. You've pretty much given my answer ready for gut feel. You think South Africa can win the final, yes?
No, Fatima, I'm in a habit of saying this because whenever I watch pundits on television, whichever sport it may be, who do you think will win? And my answer is always that, if you make a prediction, people judge you on that. Let's just say, I say that South Africa will win by a handsome margin, and they do. Everyone will say this guy's an absolute master. And if I say that, the other way around, and of course the result doesn't go in my favor, or according to my prediction, then people will say other things. So it's not so much about me, but the heart says one thing, the mind says the other. I do believe we are a very experienced Australian team. At least 9 or 10 of them out of the squad have actually been there. Apart from playing Test cricket, they've been at Lords. They played in a World Test Championship final. That does count for a hell of a lot. Our guys, 3 of the entire squad, have played at the ground. None of our coaches, apart from the batting coach, Ashwell Prince, has got 100 there. So that comes into the frame for me. The other thing is that I've asked Ashwell Prince the question this morning, and he hasn't answered it. I was just checking the phone. And the question there was, what ball are they going to be using for the World Test Championship? So India in 2023 said they prefer the Kookaburra. They didn't want Aussies to be now hammering them with a Jew ball in England. So they made that choice, and Aussies were happy with it because that's what they play with back home. Here, there are 2 countries that play with the Kookaburras in their domestic and international cricket at home. So I'm quite sure. I'm guessing that it's going to be the Kookaburra, and of course, the Kookaburra itself has now changed in its look and feel, and the way it also performs. It's a more profound or a more expanded seam. So just to see that it could play similar to the Duke. So when they're playing in domestic cricket in Australia, they're almost up to it. And this is really all because of the way the Ashes have panned out, the to and froing. So they've developed a ball, the Kookaburra company have developed a ball to almost mimic the Duke. So that's why that's a very important talking point. And I'd like to maybe get into more of it as we get into the days and weeks and days to follow. Towards the championship. So that's an important bit to look out for. And you just hope that, I think psychologically the guys are all psyched up for it. I think you asked the question off air about Anrich Nortje. And I have an opinion on Anrich Nortje very quickly, if we have a minute or so, is that I know that he was picked to play against Pakistan, hurt his toe, and didn't get into it. And then when he was just about making the comeback, plays 1 or 2 domestic games and his back pulls up again. So his body demands a lot because he does bowl quick. And even in that short period when he recovered, and the 1 game that he played at the IPL, he bowled at 152. I think he was one of 3 or 4 bowlers that managed that. But he hasn't played since. So there's a niggle somewhere, because you'd always play Anrich Nortje, whatever happens, because of the speeds he generates. And that he's now got the skill as well to back him up. But you cannot play a player who's injury prone in a game this important. And the fact that he hasn't played long enough to prove to himself, really at the bottom of his heart, and of course the coach and the rest of the coaching staff, unfortunately, he's not in that squad. And that's the only reason. And I back that decision 100%, because I do believe that even in a bilateral series, You don't want to put a player through a situation where if he's going to be breaking down, then you bowl a short in a test match. So the way to do it is to push him through to the domestic season. I don't think he should be going to India, to Pakistan, and to India. I think there's one other tour. There's a whole lot of one-day series in England and in Australia prior to those tests. So maybe if they want to sort of play him there, because in the 1 days you play a game and then there's a 2 or 3 day break and then you play another. So that may give them a look in to see how he's shaping up, if he's still got the strength and speed, and that he's up to it physically to then maybe be considered for the big tours away from home, those test tours. That may be the way that they can sort of judge his fitness. He'll always be a sure bet if he's fit. There's no doubt about that. I mean, any team in the world will have Anrich Nokia in the 11. But this is the sad truth.
Absolutely agree. And it's the same with Gerald Coetzee as well. He's always pulling up injured. You can't trust that. Right, Aslam, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an enlightening chat, absolutely wonderful. And let's hope South Africa do us proud and come back with that mace.
I hope so too, and thank you. And I've actually enjoyed our time together as well. Thanks very much, Fatima, for inviting me.
Thanks everyone for watching, and for now, that's Stumps.